Welcome to the Nurturing Fathers podcast, a show dedicated to helping men succeed at the most challenging and rewarding job they'll ever have, being a dad. Your hosts are Mark Perlman, the creator and founder of the Nurturing Fathers program, and his son, Corey Perlman, who facilitates the program at the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary and is also a father of 2 young children. It's time to add tools to your Nurturing Fathers toolbox. Mark and Corey, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Nurturing Fathers program. As always, my name is Corey Perlman, the son to my father, Mark Perlman, who's here with me as well. What's up, man?
Doing great, Corey. Glad to be here with you and glad to be here with a special person in my Nurturing Fathers world, Joe Johnson. Joe, so happy you can join us, my friend.
I am as well. Thank you, guys. I'm excited for this.
Joe is a master trainer for Nurturing Fathers. We have master trainers around the country, and it's the highest level of achievement in the program. So Joe will share a little bit about who he is as a father, a professional, and someone working very, very studiously and wonderfully in the Nurturing Fathers field. So Joe, for openers, as we do in Nurturing Fathers history, his story, tell us a little bit about your story. Where did you start and how did you get to where you're at?
Well, thank you. Again, it's an honor to be doing this. I could go way back. I will tell you guys, as you know, I was born for this role. I didn't train for this role. I didn't go to college to become this role. In fact, life educated me. I was brought into this world with I guess the way to put it is a sperm donor in a womb. And that was my vessel here, as in anybody. Unfortunately, my parents were not qualified or capable of taking care of 2 young boys. So we were shuffled into foster care at a very young age. And of course, we have a system, of foster care where we have, parents who are paid to take care of children. Now, it is a great system. Many, many children out there are thriving, living with amazing caretakers. My brother and I were not afforded those individuals. In our role, in our childhood, we're placed with, I would just say it as real life monsters. We see monsters on TV and fake Hollywood movies. That wasn't our life. These were real people that demonized us, abused us, beat us, molested us. And I don't share these things for sympathy, right? This is just a part of the calibration process that has made me the man I am today. As a child, I really longed for a father. I longed for a mother and a father, obviously, but I longed for that male presence that I didn't feel I had any guidance as a kid. I didn't have any direction. So my behaviors were out of control. I was angry. I was very dark and lashed out, at everyone I could because my ACEs score was a 10 out of 10, which I didn't realize as an adult. So in high school, using drugs to begin to numb myself to the everyday pain that I was dealing with to, in 97, I met my wife, Amanda, who I am with. We met summer before my senior year. I turned 18. That day I turned 18. Her Ford Thunderbird was backed up to my foster home. I loaded up the trunk, gave my foster parents the bird, hopped in, and I essentially say that if I were to say my first 18 years of life would be likened to incarceration. I was basically controlled, forced, unhappy, just felt abandoned. And when those cuffs came off, it was no holds barred, right? I was free to do whatever I wanted to, whenever I wanted to. No one had any control. And going into that type of age, right, in this extended adolescent that I didn't know what I wanted to do, who I wanted to become. I mowed lawns for money in the summer, but I didn't know what a true work ethic was. I didn't know how to pay bills. I was unprepared for that societal slap in the face that was about to hit me. That was reality. And so my main fixation at the age of 18 was drugs, alcohol, party. It didn't matter. I was so wrought with pain that I didn't know how to deal, and I didn't have a psychologist anymore. I didn't have medications. How do I get through this? I'm alone. But I just knew I didn't want to face any of these realities full on. I didn't want to look in the mirror. I just wanted to be out of control. And so that became my spiral of every drug that you can possibly name, and alcohol, which led me into methamphetamines. I'm very grateful that I didn't, accelerate my age by 20 years. I didn't lose my teeth. I didn't get arrested. I'm very fortunate But during this dark tenor of my life, my wife's dad, he became a father to me. He became that man that I had sought for almost 2 decades of my existence. And he told me his daughter wasn't going to be with no flake. He did not want her to be with someone that didn't care. He said, I love you. I want to treat you like a son. I want you to know that you matter. And he really made me mad. I'm not going to lie. He really pissed me off, in fact, because here I've had all these men my whole entire childhood that didn't validate me, who didn't show any ounce that I mattered. And suddenly this guy was doing opposite of what I knew. And I felt like I still wanted to shun him, and I still wanted to, run from him. But for some reason I said, you know what, I'm going to prove to this guy that I can be somebody. I'm going to prove to this guy that I will take care of his daughter. I will prove to him that I matter. My idea, guys, of what a family was what I saw on TV. I had no construct of how a father should be, how a mother should be. I knew they shouldn't have been the people that I was raised by. But what I saw on TV, so to say, that leave it to Beaver style, right? So I thought a man went to work, paid the bills, bought the house, put the clothes on the back, food on the table. Wife stayed at home, cooked the meals, washed the clothes, took care of the kids. In fact, in dating my wife, when we talked about, and projected our future plans, she said exactly that. She wanted to be a stay-at-home mom like her mom, raise our kids if we had kids, I'm like, great, I'll work. I'll pay the bills. This is what I think a man does. Boom. So we got married, bought the house. I was working. Our son, Micaiah, who's now 18, came along in '01. And I tell you, by the age of 3, he was diagnosed with autism. He was very high functioning on the Asperger's syndrome scale. But when he was little, he didn't possess verbal skills. He was nonverbal. And so when he wanted something, he would lash out, he'd get angry. And, we had never been physical with our son, so we didn't know where these behaviors were coming from. So at a very young age, he was diagnosed. As a father, I didn't want to accept that because my brother, who was the only bio family I had growing up, was my brother Charles. And he had a schizophrenia and alcohol fetal syndrome. So he was bullied relentlessly in school. It was hard. And so I saw this projection of now my son going through school and also being bullied. And as parents, we want our kids to be safe and we want what's best for them. And so when these diagnoses come, it kind of shakes us to our core of, being really kind of consumed with this, being very worried. So daughter came along in '04 and life is going along and I'm working and things. And I won't lie, my addictions reared their ugly head off and on for all those years. I would like to say that I was sober and doing good. I guess I was living life on autopilot, but I was numbing myself in one way, shape, or form, whether, again, that's alcohol, pot, and meth, glass, cocaine. And I always felt like, I do a little bit, I'm fine, not harming anybody. But as I got older, those addictions turned more to medications, tied with, again, drugs, which then, I guess, started my spiral. So the darkest day of my life from birth was June 30th of 2008. My brother died at 29 years old from diabetic shock. Amazing man. He meant everything to me. When you call a brother, if you look up that name in the dictionary, his picture would be directly underneath brother. He was everything to me. We said I love you to each other every time we hung up the phone. We supported one another. And there was this real unique bond we had because growing up with that type of trauma, the only, person I could rely on or lean on or cry on was my brother. So it was something more. And when God called him home, it destroyed my life. I allowed it to destroy my life. That next year, I spiraled even further into my addictions. And I made a challenge outside my home one day. I looked up at the sky. I said some pretty strong expletives, angry as to why I not only suffered as a child, but also now to have lost my one and only sibling. And I said, you know what? I said, bring it on. So what else you got? Give it to me. I can do it. I didn't realize that a little over a year past my brother's death that I would lose my home to foreclosure. I would lose my job. That I'd be a grand negative in a bank. That my wife would be ready for a divorce. That my kids wanted nothing to do with me. We were always over at Grandma and Grandpa's house. And then they overdosed and almost died from a heart attack. All in a matter of a little over a year of my brother's passing. It was after that near death and an opportunity from my creator to recalibrate and go down the path that I was supposed to be on that I realized, okay. So I've complained and whined about my life for almost 3 decades. I have been angry, toxic to everyone around me, and I've never really just accepted who I was and that I was meant for something more. I never really just said I am meant to be somebody. And in facing the loss of everything, it wasn't my wife and kids who changed. It wasn't the people around me. I had to make a decision that I was going to look in that mirror and say, I may not be proud of the man I've been, but damn it, I'm not going to be that guy moving forward. And I'm going to spend every day recalibrating myself. I'm going to spend every day pushing myself. I'm going to spend every day being that man to my wife that she deserves and being that father to my kids that they deserve, earning their respect because they want to give it to me and not because it's taken or pushed around. And so I just made this declaration after my life was turned around and I lived that, okay, my brother only had 29. He was 5 months short of his 30th birthday. And I don't know how much time I've got left. So I want to do something that matters. I want to imprint this earth. I want to light it on fire with energy. I want to blaze a trail, and I want to leave a legacy. Because if I had died that moment when I overdosed, there would have been no legacy left for my kids or my wife. There would have been nothing imprinted on this earth that's magical, transforming. I would have passed, and my name would have probably just faded off into existence and not been uttered again. And the devastation it would have caused my wife and kids, I don't even want to go into what that would have been like. So it was at that time, guys, that after I lost everything, I grabbed a newspaper, opened it up, and literally, I opened this thing up, this Lakes Area Press, and the first square I see in the middle of the page says Environmental Services Manager, St. Joseph's Hospital, Park Rapids, Minnesota. And I live 40 miles away. But I'm like, well, I was a facility director at that time when I lost my job, and I was a night shift cleaning manager, and screw it. I'm going to call. I called. I said, are you still accepting applications? They said, yeah, but this is the last day we are accepting applications, so you might want to come up here and apply right now. So I did. I literally drove my car to Park Rapids, applied. Over the course of a month, multiple interviews, I was offered the job. So mind you, I lost my home. I lost everything. And we saw a guy working on this little greenhouse. My wife went up to him. I said, are you going to rent this out? They were going to give it out for HUD housing. She cried and pleaded and said, please, we have to get out of our home. Would you please rent to us? And so getting this job and having a start over, he allowed us to move in. So therefore, a new foundation began to form for us. Also, my kids were angry. They yelled. They reflected me and all of those things because that's the father that I was. And I started this journey with St. Joseph's. I hit a lot of roadblocks in that first year trying to understand what I was meant to do. And I started with St. Joseph's July 29th of 2009. So I'm working this job, 25 employees, going home exhausted. Sometimes, you ever have that where you're really tired, you kind of slap in your face in the morning as you drive, maybe roll down your window, let the air in, you're trying to stay awake. Nobody likes that feeling, right? It sucks. It's draining. And so you're going this role, and are you working just for a paycheck? Am I going through the motions? I mean, I just nearly almost died. And I'm not feeling this though, but I'm meant for something greater. Something's happening. This is just another road to get me there. It's okay. But what is it? And of course, you got to be open. You got to be aware. You got to pay attention to the signs, what's going on around you. So I'm listening. And one day I'm getting my blood drawn by a nurse named Sandy, who's literally in the office next to me right now. And she says, Joe, tell me a little bit about who you are, right? I didn't know you guys at that time or the history part of your curriculum, right? But I just vomited out my story to her, and I cried and told her about my brother. She's crying. We had people in line crying, waiting to get their blood drawn. And so she says, Joe, I need you to meet my manager, Rand Mayer. She's the head of community health. Sure, why not? 2 weeks later, I think it was, Rand was in my office, and I'm telling her my story. And she says, let me see what I can do. And I kid you not, it was October 2010. She sat me down to meet you, Mark. And I remember when she said, Joe, we would like to cover your costs to go down to Sarasota, Florida to learn a Nurturing Fathers program. And we'd like you to come back, and we're going to put you on as I don't remember the name of the title of the role, basically I worked like however long the curriculum was, 2 hours. I would just work in a community in the evenings or in the jail and do this facilitation, right? Mind you, I still didn't know that this was my destiny. Okay. And I'm still scared. I'm still fighting this battle within myself to be the man that I need to be. Still battling resistance with my kids because they don't trust me, which is rightfully so. That's all I had earned at that point. And so but when she told me about this, I literally only heard Sarasota, beach, ocean, airplane. I didn't really hear the rest. I won't lie. And then I took my wife, I paid for her. I said, well, look, we'll be after our 10-year anniversary or 9-year. I don't remember for sure. 10-year. I was married in 2000, so I have no reason to ever forget. Okay. So we go down there and, as anybody who listens to this that's been down there knows what I mean. You got this beautiful ocean view and Lido Beach. And I remember, I believe, Mark, that we did the visualization there, the first one, my father and me.
Mm-hmm.
And it tore me open. I mean, it hurt really, really bad. I had never faced that. I'd never thought about what that really was ever until that day. And I remember coming back, and even my wife said, she goes, you're different. Like, there's something different about you. I said, man, something shifted in me down there. Like, there's an energy in me that I've never experienced before, and I've got to do something with this. So I get back here, and I remember I lined up my first group of guys. I'm OCD. I'm meticulous. I got my flip chart. I got my books. I got everything lined up, and I'm waiting for guys to show, right? And there's guys that are supposed to be coming, and I'm 45 minutes before the group, and I'm shaking like a leaf, right? I'm shaking. I'm scared. I'm nervous. My heart's racing. And I stopped, and I looked up, and I said, really? This is what I'm supposed to be doing? Seriously? I've been a horrible father and husband up to this point. I'm just restarting my life, and you want me teaching dads? How? How am I supposed to be doing this? Now, I haven't been the man I'm supposed to be, and you're putting me in a position of leadership? How? And this energy came over me instantly. My heart slowed down. I calmed, and I felt this loving embrace. And I went, okay, cool. And guys showed up. And I remember I left there, and I cried because it was such an important moment in my life. And I didn't realize just how important it was going to be to me. And the next week they came, and you don't forget them. And at that time, they were just coming, to check out this program. I didn't know anything about their histories or their lives, right? And so I started in the jail, and I started doing sessions there. And all of a sudden, tail end of 2010, they started doing this, the RFP, Responsible Father Grants, and the Father Project out of Minneapolis says, look, we've been operating since 97. We've ebbed and flowed, losses and gains, and we're going to write this big grant. Should we get it? Let's start going around the state of Minnesota, introducing ourselves. So let's select 3 sites out of the metro that we can expand the program, right? So they traveled around Minnesota, and they went to Rochester, which is a huge population. They went to St. Cloud, which is a huge population. Then they came to Brigham Park Rapids, which is not a huge population. I mean, I think you drive into town, it says 5,000 on the sign, right? So we met Guy Bowling, and we met all these guys, Andrew Freeberg, and we got written in. They felt something special. Now, mind you, it was called a casual position. Their seat came back to me. I was in a casual position in community health. I was full-time EVS manager, but my boss said, no, you can go to these meetings, So they select the sites, right? And they get the grant. And so Rand said, hey, I'd like to hire you as a case manager, but just a 0.5 halftime. It's like, okay. Talked to my boss, and he was all like, dude, Joe, like, I know you feel this. Go do it, So I'm working half-time as an environmental services manager, working half-time training, right? Learning how I've never been on a grant in my life. I don't know how any of this stuff works at all. So I got to learn. I've got to listen. I've got to love. I've got to understand. And it was a heavy weight to carry. It was so hard. And yet every time I hit that moment of struggle, or is this what I'm supposed to do? Again, that calming energy that just came over me. And I continuously felt like this is the path.
That calming energy you felt was evidence to you that you were on the right path. And that's kind of what you listened to and what led you in a direction. So if we can just sort of update, because I'm listening to this amazing story and you're a beautiful storyteller. Now, you have managed to create something very large out of this in your Minnesota area. And it's obviously you have touched the lives of many, many fathers in a very rural community, which is not easy. So if you can kind of share with us where the Nurturing Fathers program fits for you personally and professionally and what your work has meant.
You bet. So I've had the honor of working with over 500 dads here in the program, and that's through an enrollment process and through treatment centers, the jails, thousands of guys. And the Nurturing Fathers program is actually the most unique component of what we have. And we are the only one in the state that is a father project that utilizes the Nurturing Fathers program. So when guys come into this program, they enter a parent group, and that's our first go around. And the parent group is always a changing of different education and different topics all the time. The Nurturing Fathers program comes in as a leadership component. So when a guy completes at least 12 parent groups, once we have a good uniform group of guys, we'll then say, hey, we're going to host a Nurturing Fathers group. Who's able to come join it? We switch from this group process to a dinner table. We eat like a family together, talk about our day together. We go through each step. And all those are intentional, right? The eating at the dinner table is to reflect eating a dinner table at home with our own family, all those things. And the guys that experience that Nurturing Fathers program, as you know, as the author, and you guys that do this, is self-transformative. It goes for that whole, like they learn so much, but it gives to them this idea that I don't have to be my father. I don't have to be my grandfather. I don't have to be that coach. Like any of those things that maybe we disliked, we can get rid of that. We can cut that out. As long as we can acknowledge and know that it's there and who we want to become in this group process of brotherhood really helps guys to, go to that next level as a dad. It's so profound.
Listening to your story, the words that come to me is a story of redemption from the lowest point a person can reach to what you are now to me, Joe. And I don't say this, lightly. You are an icon, a standout of someone who is doing what they are meant to do with such enthusiasm and authenticity. It's a redemptive story. You just told a story of redemption. Where does that fit in with the men you deal with and Nurturing Fathers for you? What do you hope for them?
Well, I appreciate that, Mark. And redemption, absolutely, because, as parents, sometimes we go on autopilot. And anybody who's a parent can know what I mean, because sometimes we raise our voice to our kids and we're like, oh, I just heard my dad come out of me, or, heard my mom, or I just acted like my dad did. And when you come into a program like this, and especially when you do the visualization like My Father and Me and the little boy within, and you take these different journeys, to me, it unlocks these new pathways in a man's brain that he never really looked to think about. You look at those emotions and how we feel and how we communicate them. And it challenges guys to really restructure the thought process as a father and a husband, which to me is, if a guy's solely invested into it, if he's all the way into that journey, he will leave completely different than what he did when he came in. I have never not seen one person that going through that journey that didn't come out the other side shaken anew. It's powerful.
And one more question, Joe, going back to the personal story where you started. You and I are on Facebook together, and I must say I delight in pictures of you, your wife, and your children. You just look so playful and so happy, and you are having fun together. Talk a little bit about your role as a father today and those relationships.
Oh, awesome. Obviously, it's my most important role, right? Well, it's crazy. Like I said, my son just actually completed high school. He's homeschooled last week, and my daughter's 15. And, you go from that intentional wrestling play, getting wild to, now my son's 18 and, we don't do that stuff anymore. My daughter's 15. She's not as apt to want to hold my hand as much as she used to. And what I've learned, especially for the Nurturing Fathers for me, is I've learned that as the stages of life happen with your kiddos, that they don't alter themselves for us. We alter ourselves for them, right? We have to learn, like playing a game. The game changes. The rules change. Our love, our unconditional love does not, right? But I know when I get out of my car that my hand is there. If my daughter reaches out, I hold her hand. But that's up to her, not up to me. My son, I have to be more intentional of the stuff I take him to do and hang out because he's more apt to be more, doing his own thing now. And so I've learned as they've grown, I just find I still come home and get hugs. That's what I'm trying to say. When I get home, they still come up to the door and give me a hug. So I'm doing something right still. And that's the gift I get every day. I come home and they'll still come, hey, Dad, they'll come running up and give me a hug. And I'm like, man, you're 18, you're 15, and you're still delivering that to me. Yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, Joe, I'm going to ask you the final question from our side is, man, 500 dads, the story that you've been through. If you had to boil it down, there's fathers listening right now, listening to your story, may have similar stories. What advice can you give to them that you've taken over your journey that can help them become more nurturing dads?
Well, one, own who you are. I've authored different curriculums that I utilize in groups, and one of them is take charge of yourself. And of course, that's easier said than done, right? But that whole, I am in control of who I am and how I feel. And if I don't feel good, if I'm unhappy with where I'm at in life, I've got to analyze and figure out where I'm going. And it's so powerful when you bring in people in your life that help support and lift you up. Like I have you guys, your mentors, my friends. I have dads and group leaders, and I have surrounded by a support system at work and at home that believe in me. And it helps me to foster who I am. It helps me to be a better dad. And the Nurturing Fathers program, I've been teaching this, well, obviously not forever, right? But I've been teaching this now for quite a few years. Every time I teach it, every time I go through it, I'm not just up there as a facilitator. I'm also always there as a participant because I learn from those guys that are in that room. I learn from everybody, their energy, their sharing, their stories, and it helps me be a better dad and a better husband and a person in our community. And so I think that when we realize that if we never give ourselves a glass ceiling, if we always know we can grow and become better, then you'll find those ways and avenues to improve yourself because that's what we owe our children, the best of ourselves.
That's awesome. Lastly, I want to tell you, I'm jealous of you. I'm going to tell you why. I'm jealous of you because you've created a brand that I think is really, really cool. And I want you to just touch on it really quickly. Hope Dealer. When I saw that, I'm like, that is awesome. Tell us about that.
Sweet. Well, I was presenting with a guy named Johnny Turnipseed. He's author of the Bloodlines from other cities. And so when we were going to go speak at this big presentation in Walker, in the newspaper, it said, Hope Dealer's coming to town. And I was like, damn, whoa, right? I'd never heard that before. And it was from that point on, I said, that's like God said, there it is. That's your title. Yes. You are a hope dealer. And that's, even yesterday, I was talking to a group of professionals and doctors in Detroit Lakes, and I said, if you really want to know why I do what I do, what makes me who I am, is that I deal hope, large and small quantities, to everybody I come into contact with every single day without fail. And the hope dealer is really tongue-in-cheek because it gets people's attention.
Yes.
Right? It gets kids. I speak at schools. They're like, hope dealer. They're like, dealing. But then you hear me talk about how I deal hope and inspire people around me, which then inspires myself and improves my life. So it is the art of lifting another human soul up every single day.
So awesome. And we'll keep building that brand. I think it's awesome. I look forward to watching your star continue to rise. And last but not least, tell people how they can get in touch with you or get in contact with you to watch your journey unfold.
Awesome. Well, I have an email, Joseph Johnson at catholichealth.net. I have my professional line that anybody can call anytime to talk to me, 218-255-2063. Or hit me up on Facebook, Joe and Amanda Johnson. It doesn't matter. Where there's a will, there's a way. You can look up Father Project online, and there's all kinds of contacts and numbers on there too. So I'm always willing to talk to anybody anytime I can. If I can help someone or tell them about what we're doing, that's what I'm here for.
Awesome, man.
Thank you, my friend.
We really appreciate
Thank you, guys.
it. Yeah, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. This was powerful. I mean, I had never heard your story like that, and you got Dad and I just feeling it, and just really appreciate you. And you call us a mentor, but you're a mentor to me too. And what you've done with the Nurturing Fathers program, as Dad said, you're one of the bright shining stars, and we just really appreciate you. For those of you listening, please do share a comment, connect with us, Nurturing Fathers on Facebook, leave a review on the podcast, but definitely let us know what you thought about this episode. And thanks again, once again, Joe, and we'll see you hopefully maybe on a future episode. Thank you, brother. Take care of yourself.
You got it. Love you guys.
Thanks for listening to the Nurturing Fathers podcast. Have questions or comments? Join the conversation at facebook.com/nurturingfathers or email us at nurturingfathers@gmail.com.